again, friends. Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Shani. Thank you so much. And to my regular watchers, I always appreciate you. If you're new here and you're watching, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. On the menu today, let's make this delicious pumpkin bread. So here in the bowl, I have my bread flour. I also have my pumpkin. I had some previously frozen pumpkin and then I just added some fresh one. I'm going to go ahead and put this to boil. So this is a pumpkin. If you've never seen one before, it's quite pretty. Next, I have my dry active yeast. I have some sugar and some salt. And then here in a cup, I have some warm water that I'm going to go ahead and proof my yeast with. I'm going to be using 1 tablespoon of dry active yeast. You can also use instant yeast for this recipe as well. And I'm also adding in 1 tablespoon of sugar. That's going to feed the yeast and help it to grow. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this up for about 5-6 minutes or so until the yeast proofs. Alright, so into my mixing bowl, I'm going to go ahead and pour that flour. I was initially planning on using my hand, but that quickly changed. So into my mixing bowl, now I'm going to add my sugar and also my salt. And I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed up so that all of the sugar and the salt is incorporated. The sugar that you use depends on you, but this is 5 cups of flour, so about a 1/4 cup of sugar will be just fine. So the pumpkin is boiled and I'm going to go ahead and mash this out nicely. You want to boil this so it's very soft and easy to mash. Then we're going to go ahead and add this to our flour and sugar mixture. So the amount of liquid that I use determines on my pumpkin. So here is the yeast. It's proofed nicely. If your yeast doesn't rise up like this, if even after 10 minutes, you have to start over. It's not good. So now we're going to go ahead and put our pumpkin into our flour. So this is about 1 cup of pumpkin. And I'm also adding in 1 tablespoon of avocado oil that I forgot to mention. We do need a little bit of fat in there. So pour in your yeasted mixture as well. So what I had in the cup was 1 cup of water, and then I have 1 cup of pumpkin, mashed pumpkin, and then I later added about a 1/4 cup of water just to get it moistened enough to mix. So I will leave everything in the description box for you below so you won't have to worry. And now I'm just going to keep mixing this until all of the flour comes away from the side of the mixing bowl. And I'm going to give this about 10 minutes. So if you're kneading by hand, get in there and really knead your dough. The more you work your dough, the better bread results that you will get. Alright, so here we are. The dough is nicely removed from the side of the bowl and it's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the mixer. And I love working with yeasted doughs. They feel so good on your hands and they just make you want to constantly knead them. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and get this out into a separate bowl. I'm just going to knead it just a tad bit on my surface here just to make it nice and smooth. Let me tell you, working with dough is such an amazing feeling. If you haven't tried it, you have to. Just push the dough away from you and bring it back in. And as I'm doing this, you see that the dough is becoming really smooth and nice. That is what you want. Now remember, I said the more you work your dough, the nicer of a bread texture you will get. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this rest for about 10 or 15 minutes or so. This is bread flour that I'm using, so I won't need to double rise, but I'm just gonna go ahead and let it rest just because I've been working with it. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting my pan ready. Now I'm just gonna cover this up for a little bit, like I said, and then here we are. After about 10 minutes or so, the dough has started to rise already, as you can see, and it feels even much better. So try not to add any flour to this dough. Just use the amount that I'm going to list for you in the description box. It's more than enough. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut this into 8 pieces. I didn't end up using 8 pieces. I made a tiny bread with the other piece. So I'm just going to cut this up into the 8 equal pieces. Alright, so here we have it. So now I'm going to go ahead and work each piece into a nice roll. So just remove the rest of the side and just flatten it out on your work surface here. And I didn't add any more oil or anything. That's the little oil that I had in the bowl. And it's more than enough to get this dough really pliable. So roll it away from you into a nice tight roll. Now also, the tighter you roll your dough, the better of a bread texture you will get. I'm giving you a lot of tips today, so we better take them. So roll these up. So I'm going to be using about 7 of them, like I mentioned. So I'll go ahead and roll another one just for you to see. So just flatten it out like that. I mean, it doesn't matter how it's flattened, but you just want to flatten it and then roll it away from you as tight as you possibly can. Just stretch it a little bit as you go, and then seam the ends there. You don't want those pulling out in the oven. All right, so that is done. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and layer these into our pot. Just one last one here. Squeeze it and roll it and you're set. So for my pan, I'm using this long bread pan here. You can use 2 9x4 loaf pans if you have, and I've sprayed it with some oil, and then I've also dusted it with some flour. That's going to help the bread to release nicely. So just layering all of your rolls in there. So like I said, we have 8, and then I just used an extra one there into a tiny little baking dish because it didn't fit in here. So after about 45 minutes here, the dough is risen nicely. So I'm just going to go ahead and brush it just with a little bit of carnation milk. So this is the little one that I mentioned to you. Isn't it so cute? All right, so just brush your dough with a little bit of carnation milk or whatever milk that you have there. Plant milk, any milk is good. That's going to help me to get a nice golden brown color on my bread. You can also use an egg wash. So I just have a little air pocket there, so I'm just popping it. So into the oven, 325 degrees for 40 minutes. So here's my beautiful bread out of the oven, and I sprayed the top just so it softens up nicely and just brushed it on. You can also use some melted butter there if you wanted to. So here this is. I probably made this stay into the oven a little bit longer than I would have wanted. So just be mindful of your oven temperature and just look at it to your desired color. Isn't this bread gorgeous? I mean, the texture on this bread was amazing and the taste was amazing. Such a delicious bread. So as we're coming into fall, you can use up the pumpkins. You can actually make any flavor bread that you like. This was so tasty. You're going to absolutely love it. I really hope that you give it a try. It's soft, chewy, just the way I like bread. So I'm just going to add a little bit of butter here. You can eat this bread without anything, honestly. A cup of tea, a cold drink, and you're good to go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you subscribe and come back for more recipes. Bye now.